Good morning, good evening, and welcome everyone to our special panel discussion in celebration of International Women's Day 2024. I am Lola Quintero, representing thought leadership at Lilac, and I am honored to serve as your moderator today. This event is being held across time zones from Europe to Australia, demonstrating our commitment to inclusivity and global collaboration. At Calyx and Lilac, we are not just committed to innovation and technological development, we're equally dedicated to creating an inclusive environment where diverse talents can thrive. Today, we are here to delve into a topic of critical importance and relevance, the role of women in STEM, challenges, achievements, and the paths forward in a field where they have been historically underrepresented. Despite significant progress over the decades, women continue to face barriers in STEM fields. According to the American Association of University Women, women constitute only 28% of the workforce in STEM, highlighting a glaring gender gap in some of the fastest growing and most crucial sectors of our global economy. This disparity is not just a number, it represents untapped potential, lost opportunities, and crucially, a challenge to fairness and equality. In Spain, my home country, the situation mirrors a global issue, with women making only 16% of STEM professionals. This is not just a statistic, but a reflection of the barriers women face from early education through to professional development. It highlights the need for systemic change, for initiatives that not only encourage but also empower women to pursue and excel in the STEM careers. Today, we have an esteemed panel of women who have broken barriers, defied stereotypes, and paved the way for future generations in the STEM fields. I'm thrilled to introduce Olga Vida, Innovation Engineer, Ruth Barajas, Technology Development Engineer, Claire De Jacobi, R&D Plant Coordinator, and Helen Comfort, General Manager of People and Culture. Each of these remarkable women will share their experiences, insights, and advice on navigating and succeeding in the STEM landscape. So let's begin the enlightening journey. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. So let's dive into our first topic of discussion. This segment is crucial as it lays the foundation for understanding the personal and professional landscapes of women in STEM. I'd like to open the floor with our first question. What does it mean to be a woman in STEM today? So let's start with you, Olga. Can you share your thoughts in this?
Yeah, of course. For me, being a woman in STEM, it's challenging, but it's also a rewarding experience. I find that you need to be ambitious and strong to be a woman in STEM, but also I try not to lose my sense of self. Um, from past experiences, I think when I first started out, especially being the first, female in a team, I felt like I needed to sort of fit into the mold and not be myself. But as I've, further developed into my career, I've noticed that I needed to, um, stay true to myself. And sometimes that's exactly what a team needs is that, uh, diverse person to actually, not fit in and also, um, bring something else to the team. So it is sometimes it can be interesting. I've had my fair share of stories, but overall I think it's been a positive experience and I'm glad to be part of the young generation that is in STEM today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. What about Claire? Do you have anything to tell us?
Olga said it very well. It's definitely challenging at times, but I think it's very satisfying and rewarding as well, and exciting to be part of something that's growing and changing. So yeah, I think it's really positive.
I'm glad to hear that. Ruth?
Yeah, I would say the same as Olga and Claire is very challenging, but also really rewarding. I guess one of the major challenges that I've seen in like women in STEM is breaking the bias. Particularly when we talk about STEM careers, say for example, like some careers that are more for men than women. For example, one bias, and I may be guilty of that as well, in saying, oh, mechanical engineering is just for women, for example, which is not true. Or I guess as well, like when we talked about saying like breaking the bias in terms of different roles and positions that may be more suitable for men than women. And I think one really good example in Calyx at the moment, Claire, if I'm allowed to say that, for me, in the past, like I'm also guilty of this bias. I used to believe like maybe, I don't know, plant operators or technicians may be more suitable for men than women, whereas Claire has taught me that that's not true. We can also have women, and I'm really proud that in Bacchus Marsh, in the Batman team in Calyx, we have women working in the team. So yeah, so that's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen.
Well, I think that's really interesting because sometimes it's all of us together that help each other see and challenge, existing biases or preconceptions. So I think that's really great. Thank you, Claire, for that. And Ruth, obviously, for sharing your experience. Let's dive into the second topic, which hits close to home for all of us here at Calyx and Lilac. Our second question focuses on Lilac's and Calyx's role in supporting women in STEM. We're not just looking for a pat on the back. We want to critically assess our environments and initiatives. What are we doing right, and where can we improve? How do our policies, programs, and culture contribute to supporting women in our fields? And importantly, how do these efforts impact our panelists? So Helen, how do you think? How about we start with you for this question? What are we doing right?
I actually think there's a lot of things we're doing right, and I think a big thing is we're really looking at how we hire, and not sort of letting us be dictated by, oh, there is the pool of talent is XYZ percentage of female. We're going back and saying, no, we want them in the mix. And we're challenging that. And I know that when Claire was hiring in the plant operations team, that's exactly what she did. She worked with Vanessa Main, who's our sustainability manager, to hire and successfully hire some great females into those roles. And then it's around sort of making sure, we're very flexible. We've got an amazing organization. We're global, we're dispersed everywhere. And that means that we can attract, the very best anywhere in the world, and also offer them the flexibility to suit the lifestyle that they need. And that means we can attract all sorts of diversity, which is what we want to do. But I think it also comes into this belief, that as an organization, we're representing that not only at a sort of token level, we're believing that through the organization, that all of our leaders show and believe and represent that. And we've just got to keep examining our policies and programs and making sure that we are driving the representation, and making sure that we have an environment that attracts all sorts of people to the organization.
That's really interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. What about any of you? Do you feel supported? Do you feel empowered by the company? How has, Calyx and Lilac helped you? Do you feel like the global environment, for example, has been, additionally positive for you?
Lola, if I can start commenting on that, I think in my current situation, I'm a first-time mom. I have a 1-year-old son, so I've been particularly beneficiated of these new policies that Calyx and Lilac have implemented, particularly the parental leave policy. And another experience that I have is that prior me going on maternity leave, we didn't have any quiet rooms in our office, and it was a good, nice surprise for me to see that when I came back from leave, there were quiet rooms available. So yeah, that's one of the examples that I can share that I have felt supported by the company.
That's amazing. I think sometimes people forget that women in STEM sometimes can also be mothers, and they're still amazing at their jobs. They just also need to take care of their children and make sure that their schedule is flexible enough, right? So, and men
Yeah.
too. Obviously, we want men to be taking care of their child as well, the children. But it is an added responsibility for most women when they have children. So I am really glad to hear that, Ruth. What about you, Olga?
Yeah, I've been with Lilac for 6 months, and I have to say, it's unlike any other job I've ever had. The flexibility, the culture, I've just feel like, I can just be myself, and I can say anything that might trouble me, and I'll feel supported. I don't feel like scared to say what I like, say if something's going wrong, or also at the same time I feel proud to actually compliment or give positive feedback. And I did definitely think it's the flexibility and the team culture. Previous jobs, I wouldn't have had access to all these different types of people, be able to talk to anyone in the world at all times. So yeah, I think it's definitely a positive for me.
I really like that you mentioned the culture, because it's not just the policies, is it? The culture does a lot.
Yeah.
And in a field that has been traditionally male dominated, I'm guessing that in some places that culture might be not the best. So I think it's great that we here at Calyx and Lilac have that positive culture where we feel,
Yeah.
happy to do our jobs, right?
I think, yeah, for sure. I think it's a very forward-thinking company. And yeah, it's unlike any other job I've ever had, to be honest.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I would just like to, throw this question at Claire as well. Do you have any experiences? Do you feel supported at Calyx and Lilac?
Yeah, I mean, I work with so many great people all around, and I do think at Calyx and Lilac we're really willing to learn when it comes to anything and adapt and change as needed. And so now that there's more information, more awareness coming out, people are quite happy to take that on and change and learn. So when issues are raised or new discussions are had, I find there is that willingness to listen and change as we need to. And as Helen mentioned before, Vanessa Main has helped a lot. I think both Ruth and I have recruited recently, and small things, even like changing our wording of our job ads to appeal to wider groups, has made a huge difference. And so even in fields that are typically say male dominated, we're getting a wider range of applicants, and I think a better quality pool of candidates as well. So yeah, there's a lot happening. We've also got, as Ruth mentioned, parental leave policies. We have a wellbeing leave policy now as well, and our quiet room on site where Ruth and I work in Bacchus Marsh. So all of those things are sort of adding up to a more supportive environment.
I just want to sort of add something, if that's okay. And that is, thinking, around the culture. And I think one of the things is that you sort of see happen is as we get more and more females or diversity in the organisation, because obviously, inclusiveness goes a lot broader. But, talking about, you do see the culture adapts and shifts. And I haven't been here long enough to say that about Calyx, but I've, you know, sort of heard some experiences in terms of just the evolving sort of feeling and culture and the shift, maintaining again towards, you know, our ultimate sort of vision and purpose, but still sort of that inclusiveness really gets prevalent as we get more and more diverse. And I think that's really, really critical in terms of us being able to support women in STEM and be an attractive organisation and seeing that shift and acknowledging that shift.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that, Helen. And thank you all for your responses. Let's move to our final question, which is all about forward movement and personal empowerment. The question is strategies for success and empowerment in STEM. We want to uncover how women can not only navigate, but also excel in STEM fields. This is about sharing actionable advice, mentoring experiences, and the resources that have been instrumental in your professional journeys. It's also a chance to discuss how we can foster environments that support work-life balance, as you know, we talked with Ruth, professional growth, and personal fulfillment. We want, I think, all of us to inspire younger generations, you know, even though a lot of us are quite young, to start in STEM from that early age. I think a lot of young girls have, you know, questions as whether to start studying a career in the STEM field. So what would you say to them? And let's start with Ruth, for example.
So I could say to this question, one of the key things that has really, one of the key strategies that has really allowed me to be able to have a good work-life balance, I'd say, is to have a really strong support network at home. And as I said that, as I said, I have a 1-year-old son, and I, in my day-to-day activities, sometimes I need to take meetings in the evening. So that's when the balance comes at home, and I have my partner, for example, doing the parenting of our baby, and that's when I can take my meetings as well. So having a strong support network, that's one of the key strategies that I can share with younger generations.
That's amazing. What about you, Olga?
I think for me, it all started like back in university. I think you need to get into as many networking opportunities as you can. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and meet new people. At the same time, also that applies to Calyx and Lilac. We should, you know, really focus on getting to these universities or even getting to, you know, these secondary schools below and showcasing our wonderful talent and showing that it's, you know, what you can do. Because I think, especially when I first started in my degree, I think I had an idea of what a chemical engineer was. Basically, you know, a plant operator, you know, which is mostly male dominated. So it kind of put me in a, I guess, you know, I wasn't exactly too sure where I ended up, but, you know, meeting these people and actually talking to women who were well established in their fields, I saw that there was a range of different pathways I could get into. And also, I think having a solid mentor who is in a leadership role as a female really helped me, as I could go to her for advice. She could tell me her past experiences, and I guess that just made me not feel as alone or isolated in my experiences as well.
That's really interesting, and that just got me thinking, if any young professional or student is watching this, I welcome them to contact us, because I think they could get some really good advice from the women at Calyx and Lilac. What about you, Claire?
Sorry,
you're- oh,
Lola,
sorry.
if I
Yeah.
sorry, Lola, if I can add to Olga's comment, it is true. That's another like key strategy as well. Like surround yourself of strong women, and a positive feedback that I have from the body system is one of our new employees, Gloria. She's been assigned to. She's having Catherine as a body, and I've been having really positive feedback from both of them, and yeah, everyone's quite happy with that program.
That's really interesting because mentoring doesn't need to stop at some point. It can, go into our careers as we move along. So thanks, Ruth. Claire, what are your thoughts?
I think I agree with a lot of, well, with everything that was said, but particularly with what Olga's just said, with getting to young students and increasing their awareness of what STEM means. I was lucky, I think, when I was in uni a few years ago now, my cohort would have been close to 50% female. And so I didn't, like, you felt like you belonged, like you didn't feel like you were sort of sticking out. So that was really good. But leaving uni, going into industry, it all of a sudden felt a lot different. So yeah, definitely continuing that awareness at a young age. I know so many people, whether it's sort of more peers, people my age, and I would mention what I was studying, chemical engineering, and they'd say, "What's that?" So you can't work towards something or get inspired by it and have aspirations if you don't even know what it is. So that's definitely a huge thing. And I think just having people in all levels of businesses and companies, again, so you can see that things are possible and that you can aspire to do certain things. I think we've come a long way as well. I would have joined Calix maybe 3 years ago, and like I've just seen such a change even since then. And I think maybe even early last year, I was sitting in a room. Ruth was there in the meeting. I think we had a few other people there, and I looked around and went, "Wow, we've actually got more women than men in this meeting," and that's probably one of the first times it's happened. So things are definitely changing. But yeah, I think having representatives everywhere at all levels, and yeah, just increasing awareness would, I think, continue for us to go in the right direction.
That's great. And last but not least, I really want to hear from our GM in people and culture, from a hiring perspective, from a people and culture perspective, what advice can you give, women in STEM, young professionals, students? What would you say, Helen?
To be honest, I'm going to go back to, one of the first things that was said here today, and that is be yourself. I think that is probably one of the most important things, and don't stop being yourself. Don't let anything get in the way of that. Because at the end of the day, that is, what drives the authentic workplace that we want, and that, that's what drives culture and positive culture. So I think that is probably one of the biggest, points of advice I'd give anyone. And I think everyone here has given fantastic advice. I absolutely echo people getting mentors, and mentors can change and come and go as you work through your career and your life. And you have mentors for different reasons. And, I think drawing on those when you need to and as you need to, and building those relationships are really, really critical. It has come a long way. I was thinking about, I think, Ola, you said that at the beginning about the 29%. And I can think it wasn't that long ago that we were talking below 20% of women in STEM. So, much as I think, if we want it to move faster, we are seeing that shift happen. And it has been really, like, I think about coming to Calix and, my first day down at Bacchus Marsh, it's, my first experience coming on site and an industrial site. And you do expect it to be predominantly male. And sure it is. but there were a lot of females represented there, and it was really exciting to see and feel that experience. And you can see that throughout the workforce as well. So that's really important. So, you know, like I said, just be yourself. Don't stop at that. And, you know, I think it's interesting. We talk about being strong women, and everyone is strong women, but that doesn't mean you have to not be something that you are. You know, if you're a quieter individual or more introverted, you know, or anything like that, you know, that still is strong. I guess I just want to make that comment as well.
Thank you, Helen. I think some of those insights have been, you know, amazing, and there's definitely a lot to unpack and a lot to learn from shared experiences. You know, hearing you speak, I saw that, you know, there at some points there were some connections, some similar experiences that we've all gone through. So thank you, really. I want to, you know, as we conclude our panel discussion in honor of International Women's Day, I want to express my deepest appreciation, and I mean this, to our panelists, Olga, Ruth, Claire, and Helen. Your stories, insights, and advice are not just inspiring, they're a call to action for all of us in the STEM fields and beyond. Today, we've delved into the realities of being a woman in STEM, the support structures within LILAC and Calyx, and the strategies for empowerment and success. So to those watching this recording, I hope you find the discussion enlightening and motivating. Remember, change starts with awareness and is fueled by action. Let's use the insights from today's conversation to foster a more inclusive, supportive, and empowering environment for women in STEM. Although we may not be interacting in real time, your engagement doesn't have to end here. I encourage you to reflect on what has been shared, consider how you can contribute to positive change, and discuss these topics within your networks. Thank you once again to our panelists and to everyone who has made this event possible. Let's continue to support one another, challenge biases, and build a more equitable future in STEM. Wishing everyone a thoughtful and empowering International Women's Day. Thank you.